Caver trapped forever in the Nutty Putty is one of the worst nightmares any family can have. Around Thanksgiving time, the Jones family and friends decided to go for cave exploring, and one of them decided to explore a section that no one else has managed to explore before. But he had no idea of going headfirst into a nightmare where there was no escape. This is the tragic breakdown of the Nutty Putty incident. Nutty Putty Cave is a hydrothermal cave located in the Utah desert near Salt Lake City. It was first discovered back in the 60s and started getting famous among cave explorers because of its twists, turns, and squeezes. This mysterious underground cave is like a whole different world, which is divided into different sections. There's the maze room that has all kinds of tunnels and openings. Then there's an area called the slide that descends down 45 degrees, and this area comes with a rope so you can pull yourself safely back up. Although these parts of the cave are much easier, the birth canal and the aorta crawl, which consists of tight spaces, are the real challenge. The cave was already becoming a threat, with multiple incidents of people getting stuck. Around the time of the holidays, when the Jones family gathered together, they decided to venture into this cave and make new memories together. What they didn't know was that going into this cave would be their biggest mistake. The Jones family were a bunch of adventure enthusiasts who loved exploring different caves. This family wouldn't miss out on exploring a new cave for the world, and is always ready for a new challenge. This interest in cave exploration brought the family to the Nutty Putty Cave, renowned for its tight spaces, twists, and turns. John Jones, who had a knack for cave exploring, hadn't gone on an adventure for some time because life got in the way. He got married, had a child, and was focused on being a medical student. Because of his experience, Josh, John's brother, had just got his permit, without which cave explorers were not allowed to go in. John's wife, Emily, stayed back to look after her daughter and her in-laws, leaving John and his brother Josh with a group of 11 people. The family started their journey with great excitement and were fueled by their passion for adventure, eagerly going deeper into the dark cave. The cave was pitch dark, and the only light source they had down there was their headlamps as they kept going further. John, Josh, and 2 other friends were up for a real challenge and decided to go for something a bit extreme. They heard stories about the birth canal, how no one had been able to cross it, and made their way to it with the help of a map. They decided to head to the small passage leading to that area, which was famous for its panic-inducing and claustrophobic narrow spaces with no room to turn around to go back, other than just a small little area where explorers could just barely turn. As they delved deeper, the cave started getting more challenging, with tight squeezes and uneven terrain, with an area where you have to twist your shoulders and hips to pass through. The group was excited that they had discovered something truly unique. Then came the part called the corkscrew. Very few people have been through it, because it requires you to be extremely agile and flexible. The walls of this area are pressed inwards, resembling an actual corkscrew, which creates an intense environment. With limited visibility, cavers have to be careful and can only move just an inch at a time. But even though John was 6 feet tall and weighed 180 pounds, he managed to use his expertise to get through. He made his way to the next area that had a small incline followed by another sharp bend that went down. Before that sharp bend, there's a wider opening that cave explorers usually use to turn around to go back. Nobody other than a 16-year-old boy dared cross the next challenge because of the bend that swallows you down and leads you to a place where none have been before. Back in August of 2004, Brock Clark crossed the birth canal, made his way through the first challenge, and decided to turn around right after the corkscrew area. Even though Brock was only 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighed only 140 pounds, and was much smaller than John, he got stuck when he tried to turn around. Help arrived to free the young man, and it took roughly 14 hours for rescuers to finally get him out and to safety. Since John was much bigger than Brock, his huge size made it harder for him to turn back in the 12-inch area, so he kept going ahead, head first, and reached the second challenge, which was the sharp bend followed by a steep decline. For John, turning back was not an option, so he kept moving forward. By now, John was in an area that was unknown to anyone, and he slowly started making his way down. John, who was panicked at this point, started feeling his shoulders fatigue as he slipped deeper and deeper down. But then, he saw a hole at the bottom, thinking that this might lead somewhere safe, with room to turn. But what he didn't know was that he was going straight to his doom. As the hopeful John kept going down, thinking this was the area for his big escape, what he saw in the end was something truly horrifying. The area was nothing but a small hole where John's head was in. The hole was just 18 inches wide and a complete dead end. John, who was exhausted at this point, got stuck upside down inside a random hole, and all of his efforts to get out were futile. John was stuck there in a bad position because his arms were trapped, giving him zero leverage to go back. The only free body part was his legs, which were not enough to pull him 5 feet up. John panicked and called for Josh, warning him about what he had just gotten himself into. Josh followed him, but he went in feet first and saw his brother swallowed by a small hole, and saw nothing but his legs. Each and every hour here was crucial, since John couldn't keep staying in this position for long. In this dire situation, Josh, who had made his way back to the entrance of the cave, called for help, and rescuers finally arrived. Since John had to suck his stomach in to get through in the first place, breathing became a chore, and with his muscles not getting enough oxygen, things only started getting worse for him. John stayed calm, but in this dark cave, the only companions that were by his side were the silence of the cave and death itself. Then, finally, to check the gravity of the situation, the first rescuer, Susie Motala, stepped into the cave. By now, it was 12 a.m., and Susie, who was only 5'3" and 140 pounds, could navigate this area better than John could because of her small stature, but even she felt the cave was pressing in after every inch. However, she was confident that she would be able to pull John out so he could get back to his family again. To make sure Susie didn't get stuck in her efforts to save John, she had ropes tied to her own ankles so that she could get out and re-strategize. Susie didn't waste any time and started reassuring John while tying a rope to his legs, and fed those ropes back to the pit at the entrance of the tunnel. She coordinated with the other rescuers, and they started pulling John, but there was just too much friction. Susie tried her best by pulling hard and even cutting parts of John's jeans to create more space, but she didn't have the strength to pull out a man as big as John, and eventually got exhausted. She eventually had to leave the area to allow someone else to help John. By now, John's body started showing signs of damage. Since the human body is not made to be upside down for such a long time, his body starts losing blood circulation and forms toxins while his stomach and liver press on his chest, making it harder to breathe. To free John, the rescuers and his family members started discussing ideas, which included lubricating the cave and even breaking his legs, just to save his life. The rescuers decided to go with the same plan they used when they rescued Brock Clark with a pulley system, only this time, it wasn't so simple. Every single piece of equipment had to be taken to the narrow passage and installed with care to make sure the pulley system didn't break, which took almost an hour on each trip. Even though the rescuers tried to keep John calm, his upside-down position started forming toxins in his body with fluids reaching his brain, causing John to start hallucinating and aggressively moving his legs to free himself. But all that only caused John to go deeper into the cave inch by inch, adding more pressure to his lungs and head. By now, fluid had reached John's lungs, making breathing even harder, and it was only a matter of time before his organs would completely fail. But that was nothing compared to the pain John would have to go through later on. Because of the lack of circulation, his legs had gone completely blue and extremely sensitive. The rescuers tied a rope to John's legs to use the pulley system that was finally ready, but each tug would cause John excruciating pain. The process got lengthy because rescuers would have to give John time to settle down and pull again. After each pull, John would be lifted an inch, and it looked like John might finally get out. The closest rescuer out of the other 8, Ryan Schertz, could now make eye contact with John, and immediately gave him Gatorade through a tube. Since John was in this position for 19 hours, he couldn't move his legs to twist, which he had to do if he wanted to get out, because now his legs are hitting the ceiling. Just as the other rescuers were considering their options, which included breaking John's legs, disaster happened. Ryan blacked out and woke up to blood all over. The pulley system slipped out, which sent the carabiner straight at Ryan's face, causing intense bleeding and multiple injuries. What's worse is that now that the pulley failed, it sent John back into the hole once again. Ryan needed to get out for an immediate medical examination and was replaced by Ryan's father, Dave, who managed to go in and tie a rope around John's waist, but he got stuck as well. To get John out, Dave needed John to move his legs, which were completely dead at this point. And unfortunately, there was no way of getting him out without John leveraging himself some way. Dave was also spent and had to leave the cave. To take his place, Brandon Kowalis came in with a telecom system so John's wife, Emily, could talk to him, and thought the motivation John would get from her would actually help John get out. The gurgling breaths John was breathing before stopped, and the team gathered once again to discuss the situation. They decided it would be best if a medical professional would examine him. Over the course of the next 24 hours, more than 100 rescue teams worked feverishly to free John Edward Jones from the deep depths of Nutty Putty Cave. Their best plan was to use a system of pulleys and ropes to free John from his perilously tight spot. Something happened when the rescue team pulled John upward for the 4th time. The ropes suddenly broke free in their hands, sending the whole team sprawling backward. The nearest rescuer momentarily lost consciousness after feeling a forceful blow to the face. The medics who were at the spot, examining John, saw that John had a cardiac arrest and became unresponsive. They finally sent a paramedic down there to check up on him, who confirmed the Jones family's worst fear. At around 11:55, John was pronounced dead after 28 hours of being stuck in a dark tunnel. His body, on the other hand, couldn't be retrieved either, because just pulling him with a rope was not enough to get him out. Rescuers needed John to bend and twist. They eventually decided that they wouldn't put any more people in danger. Later, the entire Nutty Putty Cave was sealed, turning it into John's final resting place. All he saw when he regained consciousness was dust. After the dust had settled, he saw that the closest key bolt had broken off, and the stone arch right near John's legs, where the rope was tied, had broken. In the dust, he was unable to pinpoint John's exact location, but he soon discovered that John had fallen back down the crack, appearing to go even farther than before. John's body position added to the complexity. The ceiling above his feet hung so low that the rescuers couldn't just pull him out, because his feet would get in the way. He was trapped almost upside down, with only his feet visible to them. Rescuers worked feverishly for some time, but their initial system of climbing cams proved ineffective. Afterwards, they attempted to employ a rope pulley system, fastening the pulleys with bolts that were drilled deeply into the cave walls. Despite everyone's efforts, John couldn't be saved. The cave's tough conditions took his life. It was a sad ending to an adventure that started with so much excitement. The Nutty Putty Cave disaster is a reminder that even though exploring is cool, it's crucial to be careful. Nature can be tough and adventures can turn serious quickly. This story shows how people who love exploring face challenges. Sometimes, those challenges can be too much. What do you think of exploring random caves? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed today's video, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be always updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in another video.